Apa kabar semuanya? My name is Vincent and I'm going to talk about Lesson 2 Analytics Toolbox in this series Intro to Analytics. The frameworks and tools to get you started. So for this presentation, I'm going to talk about the three main domains. So first of all is the business domain, second is the mathematics, and third is technology. For business, I'm going to talk about the framework and the business questions, things that help you get started using it in business directly straight away. And of course, the kind of processes how analytics can bring values, add values to the business questions and the business problems, which is solving them. Alright? Then we talk about mathematics and statistics, which is the core conduct of analytics. You need to understand how a number could describe a certain situation. And finally, technology, in which then you need to learn about the overview. Why is it so important? For this class and series, we're going to talk about Python and R. And finally, the applications. Alright? So moving on to the business frameworks. So there are so many frameworks in the market actually. But one framework that I think would best summarize what analytics is about is BADIA. So it's a structured approach from data to decisions. And BADIA stands for 5 business questions, analytics plan, data collections, derived insights, and finally recommendations. Right? So if you see the arrows there, is from inquiry to insights and from insights to impact. And that is what really matters. So you don't need to you don't need to memorize these five approaches, but what you need to understand is the mindset. The mindset that comes here. So you always start with a question. Business question comes first. Understand the problem in the company, knowing what the current process is, until you can collect the data. To collect the data, understanding more about how to answer these business questions. And finally, from here, you realize something, that how a certain thing happened, for example, what is happening. And finally, from based on what's happening and how is it happening, you finally come up with the recommendations, which further on translate to impacts. So this is the most important thing that you need to understand. It's quite simple, isn't it? Questions, insights, recommendations. Right? And now these are another visualizations of what it is about. So it starts with data, which is raw data form. Just numbers and text, doesn't mean anything much. And afterwards, information. So you put a context. You put this data in a table that talks about a certain product, for example. So now you assign context to these text and numbers. So it becomes information. And from these informations, you get your insights. You relate it to your business domains. And finally, all of these are useless if you don't put it into a recommendations and actions. So simply put, if you know that your company hopefully doesn't go under the yellow or even the red line, if you know it but you don't do anything about it, nothing will be changing. So you will still be under the line. So every effort that you have put in analytics will be useless and down the drain if you don't translate it into an action. Alright? So this is what you should start from. And in fact, all of us have been doing it brilliantly for the past few years. I mean, you've been using Excel for your studies, for your business and everything. And every time you do Excel, you always start with questions. So how much is my company profiting, for example? And afterwards, you do some insights and data collections and insights. So you put all this data very nicely, neatly in an Excel sheet. Then you do some statistics, so you do means, medians, modes, central tendency, whatever that you put, until you can find your results. So how you find a profit is revenue minus cost. And that is the recommendation you can come up, and you tell your boss that you need to do a certain action. Alright? So that's what's happening. And afterwards, we can talk about the business questions. We always start with questions, isn't it? So we need to understand it. So there are 3 types of questions in analytics. So first is descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. Alright? So descriptive talk about what is happening. So based on the historical data or what the data that I have now, I want to see what is happening. So how do you see the profit? Is that you check what the revenue of this year minus the cost of this year, and finally you get your profit and you understand, my company is still doing well. So that is a descriptive question. But the catch is that descriptive question doesn't allow you to predict the future or understand what is happening. For example, your profit is good, but you don't understand why my profit is good. So that one, it could be answered within the next few questions. Or simply put, when you are x-raying somebody, then you only see the current state, but you don't see the next state, right? What will happen in the next 10 years. No x-ray can do that. If the x-ray can do that, then the inventor must be a billionaire, even more than Bill Gates maybe. Alright? And second, we can talk about the predictive. So using historical data to extrapolate into the future and predict it. So for example, if you know that when it rains in the past, Bob most likely were always in his home, then you can predict that the next time it rains, there's higher chance for Bob to be at his home. So you can go and hang out with him. Alright? And we talk about prescriptive. So prescriptive is optimizing. So for example, if you are a company, a DHL company, for example, doing delivery, so you want to find out what is the best way to save money by choosing the least distance of a certain truck to take, so that you can reduce the gas mileage cost. And this is a brief summary about descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive, as you can see here, right? And finally, for the business, we are going to talk about applications. So it could be in anything like marketing, finance, operations, and human resource. And for marketing, we talk about understanding the marketing approach of analytics. So simple example is like Target. So Target knows how somebody is pregnant. So what happened here, if you guys never heard about it, is that Target sends a lady of baby's goods because Target knows based on her historical purchases that he always bought baby's goods. So Target assumed that she's pregnant, which she really is. But the catch is that the parents did not know that she was pregnant. So the parents found out from the emails that Target sent to her. So this is a bit controversial, but it gratefully really catch the essence of analytics in marketing. And other example is like the beer and diapers. So there is a high number of purchases with high support and confidence. If you don't know what support and confidence is, don't worry, we're going to cover it in the next few lessons. Alright? And we talk about market basket analysis. But basically there are higher purchases of diapers and beers being made together. And this stumbles us because what's the relevance? Well, until that we found from analytics that this is the case, we extrapolate, we interview them, that turns out that people that have babies at home, which is more likely to buy diapers by the way, they are more likely to buy beers and drink it at home instead of at the bar. So that explains the increase of purchases of beer and diapers done together. Without analytics marketing, you will never find it out. So for the operations, we talk about DHL or maybe like cheese factory. So how much kind of cheese and what kind of cheese that you need to produce in order to maximize your profit, for example. And finance or accounting talks about straightforward forms or maybe like income statements, fraud detections. And finally, for all these applications, you can learn it more from Wharton Business School Specializations in this link. So it's a course that I have made and completed. It's for free, except for the certificates, but it's really underlies the use of analytics in many kinds of business domains. Right? Then finally we talk about statistics. So We have basic statistics and statistical analytics, which is more advanced. So basic statistics, basically you talk about mean, median, modes, something that you need to find out in order to understand your data or what's happening, and you need to understand the dispersion so that you can you are not trapped in the commonality of average. So you know like how steep is the difference of the varieties. So you, as you can see here, you can see the normal distribution curve, and that's very important to understand the difference. And we all can also talk about statistical analysis. So this is my inspirations. So this talks about many different kinds of applications of analytics in predicting and exploiting, which is more fun, and I'm going to talk about in the future when we talk about machine learning, right? Then we talk about technology. So why technology is important? Because technology capacities always increases. So there's a more slow rate, but it increases exponentially. So there's more slow that probably double regularly and increase exponentially. So that's why more capability to process more data and the importance of analytics and technology becoming higher and higher by each year. But there's no solution fits all. There's no one simple technology that fits all different analytic purposes because of the set of data. For example, if it's small, you can get by using Excel, but if it's not, then no Excel, unfortunately. And you can talk about the existing infrastructures of the company, like maybe the company using legacy systems. And cost, security, and convenience pay off definitely. And for technology, we have the war of languages. So if you know this is R and Python, this is, if you know, maybe you can pause and guess it, but it's MATLAB, Octave, and Julia. So there are many different words out there. But for the purpose of this course, we focus on Python and R. And the reasons are flexibility. It can be used with many different kinds of data and many different kinds of outputs, and it's easy to learn. So it's very flexible and it's very well supported. The extensiveness of library you can use for making interface. Sorry for that. There was a bit of error for my site. But let's just move on. So there is a war of languages, which is talks about different kinds of languages. And why we use Python and R is because of these reasons. And Python and R actually save developer time, but at the cost of the machine time, because that that is a very high level structure of machine language. But arguably, developer time is more useful. Your time is more useful because your machine can produce it still really fast anyway. And more of the differences at the www.datascan.com, the link at the below, so you can feel free to click it. Alright? So for the next lessons, we are going to get our